The vast emptiness of space stretched before the colony ship, its metallic hull gleaming against the darkness. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, scanning the holographic displays that flickered with routine sensor data. Epsilon 7 was supposed to be a peaceful settlement. Humans had worked hard to transform the rocky planet into a habitable outpost, with small agricultural domes and research facilities dotting the landscape. The colony had been operating for just over 2 years, a testament to human determination and adaptability. Something changed in an instant. The sensor grid erupted with warning signals, bright red indicators dancing across the screens. Massive energy signatures were approaching, not human, not like anything they had encountered before. Multiple unknown vessels entering sensor range. Lieutenant Kim announced, her voice steady but tense. Configuration doesn't match any known galactic database. Jay's eyes narrowed. The ships were massive, resembling predatory creatures more than technological constructs. Their hull design suggested extreme military engineering. Sharp edges, multiple weapon ports, and an intimidating silhouette that screamed pure aggression. The Zorn vessels moved with calculated precision. They weren't exploring. They were hunting. Defensive. Protocols, Jay commanded. Wake up the colony's emergency response teams. Within minutes, the colony transformed. Agricultural workers became potential soldiers. Research scientists grabbed specialized defensive equipment. Underground shelters activated, protecting the most vulnerable population members. The first Zorn communication burst came through, a series of harsh, clicking sounds that translation computers struggled to interpret. When the message finally resolved, its content was chilling. Inferior species, prepare for total subjugation. Jay understood immediately. These weren't negotiators, they were conquerors. The colony's defensive systems, initially designed for potential meteorite protection, now hummed with unexpected potential. Automated turrets emerged from hidden positions, quantum-linked communication networks activated, and electromagnetic shielding began charging. The Zorn clearly expected an easy victory. Their initial approach suggested complete confidence. Massive. Ships moving without stealth, weapons fully powered, transmission channels open. They believed humans were nothing more than another primitive species to be conquered and harvested. What they didn't know was how quickly humans could adapt. Lieutenant Kim's fingers danced across her control panel. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations in their main weapon systems. They're preparing a concentrated assault. Jay's mind raced. Traditional military doctrine suggested surrender or immediate evacuation. But something in his gut told him different. Humans had survived, on Earth through countless challenges. Climate disasters, political upheavals, technological revolutions. This would be no different. Activate experimental pulse generators, he ordered. These were prototype systems never fully tested in actual combat scenarios. Developed by a team of eccentric researchers who believed in pushing technological boundaries, the pulse generators could potentially disrupt advanced alien technology. The first Zorn energy weapons began charging. Massive plasma cannons aimed directly at the primary colony complex, promising total destruction. But humans had a different plan. As the alien weapons prepared to fire, J. Park watched carefully, the pulse generators, looking like nothing more than small metallic towers scattered around the colony's perimeter, began to emit a strange, almost musical humming. Then everything changed. The Zorn vessels suddenly jerked, their precise formations dissolving into chaos. Communication systems failed. Weapon arrays shut down. For the first time in their conquering history, the Zorn found themselves completely vulnerable. Captain J. Park allowed himself a small smile. The first battle hadn't even truly begun, but humans had already proven something fundamental. They were far from helpless. The predators were about to learn that their prey had teeth. The chaos of the first moments after the Zorn attack spread quickly across Epsilon 7. Commander Hyun Kim watched from the underground command center as the colony's initial defensive strategy unfolded. The experimental pulse generators had done more than anyone expected. They hadn't just disrupted the Zorn ships, they had completely scrambled their advanced technological systems. Massive alien vessels now drifted like wounded animals, their once precise formations broken and confused. But the Zorn were not defeated. Not yet. Small dropships began emerging from the larger vessels, each carrying heavily armored troops. Their exoskeletons gleamed with metallic precision, advanced weapon systems integrated directly into their battlesuits. They looked like nightmares. Part machine, part living creature, designed for nothing but destruction. The first wave of Zorn troops landed with brutal efficiency. Their initial target was the main colony research center, a complex filled with valuable scientific equipment and potentially strategic information. What they didn't know was that humans had been preparing for something like this for years. The research center wasn't just a scientific facility, it was a trap. As the Zorn troops approached, the entire building seemed to transform. Automated defense systems emerged from hidden positions. Walls shifted, revealing reinforced positions. What looked like ordinary research equipment became sophisticated defensive platforms. Lieutenant SCO Park, a former special operations soldier turned research engineer, had designed these systems. She watched through remote cameras as the alien troops moved closer. Electromagnetic disruption sequence, she whispered into her communication device. The next moment was chaos. Powerful electromagnetic pulses swept through the area. The Zorn, battlesuits so advanced just moments before, began to fail. Complex electronic systems sparked and died. Sophisticated weapon arrays became nothing more than dead weight. The human defenders weren't just fighting. They were thinking several steps ahead. Smaller human defense teams began moving through hidden underground tunnels. These weren't traditional soldiers, but a mix of colonists, farmers, scientists, technicians, who had been trained in emergency response protocols. Their weapons were improvised but effective. Mining lasers became assault tools. Agricultural cutting equipment transformed into close combat weapons. Communication devices became jamming systems. The Zorn found themselves in an environment they didn't understand. Every step was a potential trap. What looked like a simple research complex was actually a carefully designed combat zone. Commander Kim's voice crackled through communication systems. "Remember," he said, "they expect us to fight like traditional military. We're going to fight like humans." And fight they did. Small teams moved with incredible coordination. They used the terrain, the buildings, everything as a potential weapon. A group of researchers used specialized cooling systems to create instant ice patches, making the alien troops slip and lose balance. Agricultural workers redirected water systems to create instant mud zones that trapped heavy battlesuits. The Zorn began to realize they weren't dealing with a typical conquest. Hours passed. The initial attack that was supposed to take minutes turned into a complex, challenging battle. The Zorn lost more troops to unexpected human tactics than to direct combat. By the time the first day ended, something had become clear. This wasn't going to be an easy invasion. The colony of Epsilon 7 had shown that humans were far more than just another species to be conquered. They were adaptable, creative, and most importantly, they fought not just with technology but with intelligence. Commander Hyun Kim allowed himself a small smile. The first real battle had been fought, and humans had won. But this was just the beginning. The Zorn would be back, and next time, they would be prepared. Earth's research facilities buzzed with unprecedented energy. The recent encounter at Epsilon 7 had transformed everything. Dr. Yoon Choi stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers tracing complex technological schematics. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked with a single purpose: develop technology that could protect humanity from alien threats. The pulse generator technology from the Epsilon 7 battle became their starting point. What had been an experimental prototype was now the foundation of a complete technological revolution. Quantum communication networks began taking shape. These weren't just communication systems. They were adaptive living networks that could change and respond faster than any alien technology could predict. Each network node acted like a living brain, learning and adjusting in milliseconds. Military research teams worked alongside civilian scientists, Engineers who once designed renewable energy systems now created advanced weapon platforms. Agricultural researchers developed specialized materials that could withstand extreme alien weapon frequencies. The government had released unlimited funding. Every scientific discipline became part of the defense strategy. Robotics experts, computer programmers, material scientists. Everyone was now working toward a single goal of protecting humanity. Autonomous combat systems emerged as a breakthrough. These weren't simple robotic weapons, but intelligent platforms that could analyze and adapt during combat scenarios. Machine learning algorithms developed strategies faster than human commanders could think. Prototype drones began taking shape. They looked nothing like traditional military equipment. Some were small as insects, capable of infiltrating complex alien systems. Others were massive autonomous platforms that could transform their entire structure mid-battle. Dr. Choi's team focused on something revolutionary, a neural interface system that could connect human strategic thinking directly with combat platforms. Soldiers could now think commands that would be instantly executed by advanced AI systems. The Zorn had attacked thinking humans were primitive. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Satellite networks around Earth began transformation. What was once a communication grid became a complex defensive system. Each satellite could now generate localized electromagnetic disruption fields, essentially creating invisible defensive bubbles around human territories. Spacecraft design changed completely. Engineers abandoned traditional rocket technologies. New propulsion systems used quantum entanglement principles, allowing near-instant positional changes during combat. A ship could now teleport small distances faster than enemy targeting systems could track. Weapon technologies moved beyond traditional understanding. Pulse generators evolved into complex energy manipulation systems. Scientists could now create localized gravity fields, electromagnetic disruption zones, and even temporary dimensional shifts. The most interesting development came from an unexpected source. A team of behavioral psychologists worked alongside technological researchers, developing systems that could predict alien tactical thinking. They weren't just creating weapons. They were creating adaptive intelligence platforms that could understand and counter alien strategies. 3 months after the Epsilon 7 encounter, humanity's technological capacity had increased by several 100%. What would have taken decades now happened in weeks. The Zorn had awakened something in humans, an incredible capacity for rapid adaptation and innovation. Every technological limitation was now seen as a challenge to be overcome. Dr. Choi looked at her team. Young researchers, some barely out of university, were redesigning fundamental principles of warfare and technology. Their eyes burned with determination. They weren't just defending humanity, they were transforming what it meant to be a technological civilization. "We're not just preparing for a war," she told her team. "We're preparing to show the galaxy who humans really are." The research facility continued its work. Outside, Earth looked peaceful, but something extraordinary was brewing. A technological revolution that would change everything. The Zorn would soon learn that attacking humans was the biggest mistake they could make. Admiral Sung Lee stood before a massive holographic display, watching the complex network of information streams flowing between human communication centers and alien communication channels. The Zorn thought they understood psychological warfare. They were wrong. Humans had transformed information into a weapon more powerful than any physical technology. Every communication channel became a potential battlefield. What looked like simple transmissions were actually carefully designed psychological operations meant to destabilize alien understanding. The first step was understanding the Zorn psychology. Research teams had spent months analyzing captured communication signals, alien behavioral patterns, and technological interaction logs. They discovered something fascinating. The Zorn had a hierarchical society built on absolute confidence and strict military discipline. Their weakness was predictability. Human communication teams began sending carefully crafted messages. These weren't traditional military communications. They were complex psychological triggers designed to create doubt and confusion. Some transmissions suggested internal human conflicts that didn't exist. Others created false narratives about human technological capabilities. Each message was designed to make the Zorn question their own understanding of human civilization. Captured Zorn communication networks became conduits of strategic misinformation. False military movement reports, fabricated technological achievements, and complicated diplomatic scenarios began flooding their information systems. The Zorn leadership started experiencing something they had never encountered: uncertainty. Their military commanders began questioning established strategies. Invasion plans became complicated by internal debates. What was once a unified military force now started showing signs of internal friction. Sophisticated AI systems worked alongside human strategists, creating communication algorithms that could predict and manipulate alien psychological responses. Each message was a precision instrument, designed to create maximum psychological impact. Intercepted Zorn communication logs revealed growing panic. Their intelligence systems, once considered unbreakable, now seemed completely compromised. Every piece of information became suspect. Admiral Lee understood something fundamental. Modern warfare was no longer about physical destruction. It was about controlling perception and understanding. Quantum communication networks allowed humans to create multiple simultaneous narrative streams. A single event could be presented in hundreds of different ways, making it impossible for the Zorn to determine what was real. Young communication specialists, some barely in their 20s, became the new frontline soldiers. Their weapons were words, algorithms, and psychological understanding. The most brilliant strategy emerged when human teams started introducing subtle cultural concepts that the Zorn couldn't understand. Complex human emotional experiences like compassion, individual choice, and creative problem-solving became psychological weapons. Zorn military communications started showing signs of internal breakdown. Their rigid hierarchical system couldn't handle the complexity of human psychological manipulation. Some Zorn military units began questioning their own leadership. Others started experiencing what humans would call existential crisis, a complete breakdown of their understanding of their mission and purpose. The psychological warfare wasn't just about creating confusion, it was about fundamentally challenging the Zorn's entire cultural and military understanding. Intercepted communications revealed growing internal conflicts. Zorn military commanders started arguing among themselves. Their once perfect communication networks now resembled chaotic information battlegrounds. Admiral Sung Lee watched the holographic displays, a slight smile forming on his face. Humans weren't just defending themselves. They were completely rewriting the rules of interstellar conflict. The Zorn had attacked humans thinking they were a simple, predictable species. Now they were discovering that human complexity was their most powerful weapon. Each transmission, each carefully designed information stream, was bringing the alien civilization closer to complete psychological collapse. And humans were just getting started. The psychological battlefield had become the most important frontier of this emerging conflict. Physical weapons were becoming secondary to the power of human creativity, adaptability, and strategic communication. The Zorn would soon learn that attacking humans meant facing an opponent they could never truly understand. The neutral galactic quadrant became humanity's chosen battlefield. Stars watched silently as two civilizations prepared for their final confrontation. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge of the USS Epsilon, humanity's most advanced combat vessel. Around him, a fleet of ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen prepared for battle. These weren't just military vessels. They were living technological organisms that could adapt and transform mid-combat. The Zorn arrived with what they believed was overwhelming force. Hundreds of massive warships filled the starfield, their hull designs promising total destruction. They had gathered every remaining military asset, convinced this would be their moment of total victory. They were wrong. Human ships moved differently. Where Zorn vessels followed rigid formation patterns, human ships danced across space like living creatures. Each vessel communicated with others through quantum networks, creating a single unified intelligence that could respond faster than individual thinking. The first wave of Zorn attacks came with traditional massive energy weapons. Designed to obliterate entire planetary systems, these weapons represented the pinnacle of their military technology. But humans had been preparing. Quantum shields absorbed massive energy bursts. What would have destroyed entire planets became nothing more than light shows against human defensive systems. The Zorn watched in growing horror as their most powerful weapons became useless. Smaller human vessels began their counterattack. They weren't just firing weapons. They were implementing complex strategic algorithms that anticipated Zorn movement patterns milliseconds before they happened. Autonomous combat drones emerged from human ships. These weren't simple robotic weapons, but intelligent platforms that could think and adapt. Some were as small as insects, capable of infiltrating alien ship systems. Others were massive platforms that could transform their entire structure mid-battle. The psychological warfare from previous encounters now reached its peak. Human communication systems began broadcasting complex signals that disrupted Zorn communication networks. Their rigid military structure started breaking down from within. Zorn commanders found their own troops questioning orders. Communication channels became filled with confusion and doubt. What was once a perfect military machine now resembled a chaotic collection of uncertain units. Captain Park watched the battle unfold like a complex dance. Humans weren't just fighting. They were demonstrating a completely new approach to conflict. Each movement was calculated, each strategy designed to do more than just destroy. The battle lasted hours, but it felt like moments. Zorn ships began surrendering, not because they were physically defeated, but because their entire understanding of warfare had been fundamentally challenged. Autonomous AI systems aboard human vessels began broadcasting messages of potential peace. These weren't traditional diplomatic communications, but complex psychological invitations that spoke to fundamental concepts of cooperation and mutual understanding. Some Zorn ships powered down completely. Others attempted last-minute attacks, only to find their systems compromised by human technological innovations. As the final moments approached, it became clear. This wasn't just a military victory, it was a complete transformation of interstellar conflict dynamics. The neutral galactic quadrant became a symbol of human potential. A small species that had been considered primitive had just demonstrated capabilities that would reshape galactic understanding. Captain J. Park looked out at the star field. The battle was over. But humanity's real journey was just beginning. The HFY Zorn had attacked humans thinking they were conquering a weak species. Instead, they had awakened a civilization that would change everything. Stars continued their silent watch, witnessing the birth of a new era of galactic civilization.